I would like to call our work session to order. Hope everybody had a very happy Thanksgiving. And now we are back to work. Mr. Parker, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Daniels. Ms. Green. Mr. Madsen. Mr. Majors. Here. Ms. Rawls.
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez. Present. And Ms. Bowers.
Present. Please note that Vice President Green and Councilwoman Daniels are excused this evening. One more housekeeping note before we begin our committee business. All participants, if you could please speak into the microphones directly so that everyone in the room and everyone watching can hear you clearly. Thank you. Okay, we're going to begin our committee business this evening with the Building and Housing Committee. Chair Majors.
Thank you, President Bowers. Before the Building and Housing Committee, we have two resolutions. First will be Resolution 69 of 2022, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a professional services contract with Steve Zimmerman to provide access and service of the city's historical mainframe, programming operations, and related services in the Bureau of Information Technology. Someone here from the Bureau that can provide us a brief overview of the resolution.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Steve Ortner. I'm IT Director for the city. This contract is a similar contract that we've had with Steve for quite a few years now to provide mainframe services to the city. The contract itself, there is no change other than the hourly rate went up by $10. So it's still $135,000 contract. The good news is this should be the last full year that we will need Steve's services, probably into 2024, but not for the entire year. He is helping with migration to Munis, which we need his knowledge to help us with that migration. So for 2022, it looks like we'll be about $30,000 under what we had budgeted for this fiscal year. So that's in essence the contract for 2023.
Okay, thank you. And well, that's good to hear that we are nearing the end of this contract as we're completing the migration. You just anticipated the few questions that I would have had regarding the contract. And I think just to make sure, so the hourly rate has increased by 10. The cap remains at 135,000. And are we changing his hours per week at all, or is it still?
So it's still the same.
Still the same.
Yep.
Okay. All right. No additional questions from me as chair. I will start with questions from my colleagues. I will start to my left with Councilman Rodriguez. Do you have any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you.
President Bowers.
I don't have any questions. I'm excited to know that this is the last full year, but I appreciate Steve's assistance with the migration and all of his assistance leading up to this point. I'm thrilled that we're finally seeing some headway with our operation, municipal migration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Rawls.
Good evening. I have no questions either, just excited for it. You answered them all with your explanation, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you. And then just one quick question, last question. In terms of the completion of the migration, do you have a month in mind that you're thinking of in 2024 when it will be complete, or is it just still, we'll have to wait and see how everything?
Right now, probably early to mid 2024.
Yeah, so second quarter.
Probably
Okay.
about that time frame. There's some things we're moving around now, but it should not impact the overall final completion date of the project.
All right, thank you. there aren't any further questions, I will ask that resolution 69 of 2022 be placed on the agenda for our next legislative session. Thank you, Mr. Bortner. And the last resolution in the Building and Housing Committee for today is Resolution 70 of 2022, a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into professional service contract with Civitas LLC for the purpose of providing professional services to the city's Department of Building, Housing, and Development, including but not limited to technical assistance and general consulting for the general technical assistance, consolidated plan development, analysis of fair housing choice betterments, the tier 2 site-specific environmental review, and environmental review for emergency demolition. And I see we have Director Hill from the administration to provide us with a brief overview. I know this is a contract we've had previously, so if you just provide us with a brief overview of the resolution, and it'd be appreciated.
Sure. Denise Hill, Director of Housing and Economic Development for the administration. As you stated, this is a pretty common contract in front of you. For Civitas, they are our technical assistant assigned by HUD for DBHD, Department of Building and Housing Development. You will notice that the amount is higher this year because we are up for our 5-year consolidated plan, which does include the 5-year consolidated plan and the analysis of impediments. So that's why there is a difference than previous contracts. But the contract does include general technical assistance, the lead environmental reviews, and the emergency demolition environmental reviews. The services that Civitas provides to myself and my team are invaluable, but they include, but are not limited to, they have a bi-weekly meeting with us for an hour. They prepare our annual CDBG, ESG, and home workshop. And they actually come in for 2 days to assist me with putting that workshop on for subrecipients. That is here on site. If there is any application reviews that we put out before we submit them to the mayor or to council, they are willing to overlook them. They help prepare our annual action plan and our consolidated annual performance evaluation report, or the CAPER, which I come before you all to report on. And again, they do our environmental reviews for lead and emergency demolition. They assisted with our rent relief program. And in addition to that, outside of the contract that they were in with us, they did provide assistance on the $13 million grant from DCED for CDBG that was just awarded to Parks and Rec. And I'll also state, between 2019 and 2020, DBHD had over 20 findings with HUD. And fast forward to 2021, Civitas helped us. We had 0 findings throughout our monitoring period.
Thank you. And could you just note the number of findings we had again previously from 2009 through 2020?
For 2019, it was over 20.
Over 20, sorry.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And then the increase in the contract, could you just speak to the amount that it increased?
Yes, so typically it's 75,000 for the year. And this one was going to 92,000. So again, the difference is for the preparation of the 5-year consolidated plan and the analysis of impediments, which are both required to maintain the CDBG, ESG, and home development funding through HUD.
Okay. Thank you. We'll open it up to questions from my colleagues. Like I said, as this is something that we've done on a regular basis, and just some additional changes which were highlighted by Director Hill. I'll start with questions to my right, Councilwoman Rawls.
Thank you. Good evening. You explained it really well, so I don't have any questions. You know, like you said, it's a contract we've been had. I see all the things that they help with. So that's good teamwork. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. You were talking about Councilman Madsen. Any questions?
No questions for me. I apologize for my tardiness. Thank you.
Thank you. President Bowers.
I don't have any questions, but congratulations on 0 findings in 2021. I know that that's a huge feat, so congratulations on that. Yeah, no questions. I'm pretty clear on their assistance, so thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just add, they provide technical assistance, but the work really comes from, my team. But the thing that I like about Civitas is that we use them more strategically now, as opposed to doing actual tasks for us. They are providing more training, because my team is capable. So they just kind of oversee, run things by them, but the heavy lift is
Yes, the team.
the 0 findings is.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Director Hill. First and foremost, good evening. So the increase is just due to the 5-year consolidation plan, pretty much.
That's correct.
And then I've never heard of the tier 2 lead. Could you just give me kind of a brief overview of like some of the things they look at with the tier 2? If they're like, is it like a lead inspection or?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
actually provide them both for our lead program and our housing rehabilitation program, or
Okay.
HRP. Tier 1 is for the entire city. That's the big environmental review that's done, that takes an analysis of the entire city. Tier 2 is site specific. So if we are doing a project, there are certain things that we have to look for. Are there gas tanks underneath? Was it a tribal burial ground? There are all of these things that we have to make sure before any project starts that we have checked all the boxes, we've cleared everything before any work can be done using federal funds.
Thank you for that answer. Thank you. No further questions.
All right, thank you. And again, congratulations to your staff on the 0 findings. And if there aren't any additional questions from my colleagues, I would ask that resolution 70 be placed on the agenda for our next legislative session. And with that, that concludes the work of the Building and Housing Committee. Back over to you, President Bowers.
Thank you, Chair Majors. Our next committee business this evening comes from the Administration Committee. We will begin with Resolution 71 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 71-2022. A resolution appointing Ms. Gina Roberson to serve on the board of the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority.
Thank you. Ms. Roberson, if you could please join us. I would like to note for the record, I will lead the line of questioning this evening, but I will recuse myself from the vote for personal reasons. So just wanted to note that. And I'll note it again when we vote during our legislative session on December 13th. Okay, good evening. So this resolution is an appointment to serve on the board of the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving on this particular board.
Hey, good evening. My name is Gina Roberson, Special Advisor to the Mayor and also Head of Community Engagement. I have been here almost a year and so far so good. What was your other question?
Just some your interest in serving on the board.
Oh, okay. So the mayor actually had a meeting with Mr. Farr. And as her special advisor, I come into some of her meetings, and Mr. Farr, and I can't remember the young lady's name that came with him, came to a meeting, and the mayor and Mr. Farr was having a little kind of feisty little meeting. And she was stating that she wasn't pleased with some of the things that he was doing to for some of his employees. And You know, he would say the reason why he did this, she would say, well, you need to do that, and so on and so forth. So she gave him what do I want to say? Like, some things he needed to do. And she outlined the things that he needed to do, and I'll see you in a month. She got up, walked out, and he kind of just looked there, and then they got up and walked out. But in a month, when he came back, everything that she asked him to do, he did it. And he brought that same little lady back with him. And so he did that. The mayor said, okay, well, it's nice that you did this, but you should do this, 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 and this. So he looked at her, kind of grinned and bear, and he said, okay, no problem. Came back, he did this, 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 and this. So as I'm interacting or listening rather in these other meetings, I'm saying, oh, this guy, he's okay. She asks, he delivers. She asks again, he delivers. So I said, this might be something that I might be interested in. And I said something to the mayor. I said, Mayor, if you don't mind, if there's an opening on this board, I'd like to be appointed to it. Because I know people that work for, now, this is where I get confused. I don't know if I need to call it cat or rabbit, but I have some friends that work for CAT, they drive the bus, and I have friends who ride the bus. And I said, this might be something I'm interested in. And so she said, oh, really? Okay. So that's how I became, well, sitting in this seat. My name got sent down to, or up to the Law Bureau and down to you guys, or however it goes. But that's why I'm here, because I got an interest in cat or rabbit services.
All right. Well, I just want to note for everyone's reference, the purpose of the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority is to carry out the operation of mass transportation service and all other transit and transportation related services to the counties of York, Adams, Franklin, Dauphin, Cumberland, and the city of Harrisburg, and for any Pennsylvania municipality who calls upon SRTA for assistance. I don't have any other questions. Well, maybe one more. So with all of this and all of your knowledge and experience, what impact do you believe you would bring to this board?
Well, like I said earlier, I know people that work for the two companies, or it sounds like 5 or 6 counties, but I know Harrisburg in specific, but just knowing that I can help someone here in the city of Harrisburg. I have, I'm a community outreach person, so I interact with the community a lot. And I think that in itself will help me, at least help Harrisburg. If I am appointed, I can learn about the other counties that this bus company, boy, this is funny, this transportation company provides.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to now open the floor to my colleagues. If they have any additional questions, I'd like to begin with Councilman Rodriguez. Any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Gina, for being here this evening. Just thinking, I say intuitively, with some innovation, what's some ideas, at least one, that you can bring that would change the way we look at transportation with your new role, hopefully on the board?
I don't know, because I don't know how things are set up. You know, I can't come and say, I want to do, you know, run the vacuum cleaner and they have a wooden floor, you know, so I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Thank you for the honesty. So just pretty much got to learn the system, learn
Correct,
the ways, and then, oh, absolutely. Well,
correct.
thank you once again for your willingness to serve.
Yeah.
No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Majors, any questions?
Thank you. I guess the first question I have is for the Law Bureau or the administration. I know we have seats on the Transportation Authority? Is this filling a vacant seat or replacing a current member of the authority?
We have 2 seats on the board. It is replacing myself. I had a 1 year, I was sort of an interim appointment to get the board up and running. If you remember from last year, all municipalities had to have the paperwork in time for them to set up. So I was the interim for the first year. My term is over November 30th. And then it's a 5-year term under the law.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Robertson, for being here. No further questions. That was the one clarifying question I wanted to ask. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Matson, any questions?
Good evening. Thank
Hi.
you for your willingness to serve. One quick question I have is, so reliable transportation has been an issue for a lot of our workforce here in the city. And I guess, what are some thoughts that you have, since you know a lot of folks that either drive the CAT bus system or ride it, that we could improve those services so folks, have more options for getting to various employment opportunities?
Well, I'm not sure, from what I'm told anyway, about the services that's provided to the residents as much as it is the bus drivers, their satisfaction and their needs being met. So I'm thinking if we can assure them that their needs are met, then everything else will flow better than it has been.
Yeah.
And to my understanding, Mr. Farr it was brought to his attention that he was trying to pay the employees a certain amount of money, and the drivers and their union said, no, that's unacceptable. How about this, this, and this? And he agreed. So my understanding and working and hearing about Mr. Farr has been good, because when you bring something to him, he accepts your suggestions, and they all seem to be happy now. Initially, I heard it was real crazy and rigid and just rough, and I think he had to learn Harrisburg, because I always say Harrisburg is different than any other place you're ever going to live. And he had to learn Harrisburg and how Harrisburg operated for him to understand his employees.
That makes sense. We like to say more is more, right? So if you pay folks more, you'll get more
Yeah,
return for that investment.
I agree.
Makes sense. That was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rawls, any
Thank-
questions?
Thank you, President Bowers, and good evening, Ms. Roberson. Thank you for coming tonight, being willing to volunteer your services on the board. It's a big job, especially even volunteering. So I thank you for your honesty. Like you said, I don't know. You don't know what you would want to change that until you get there and see how it's set up. So I do appreciate that. But also from talking with the people, who ride the CAT bus or who work for the CAT bus, mainly the ones who ride it, because for me, I see things I want to change with riding the CAT bus. I think from living in New York, I would have been lost there if I wouldn't have had a map. And I feel like that's what we're missing sometimes, like where they catch the bus at, or just, outlining, here's the stops, this is where you go. That's where I feel like I'm missing. So I just want to give that to you as something.
Well, they do have maps inside so if you ride bus 13
Right.
and you get the flyer, it
Okay.
has the map where you can get on, where you can get off.
Yeah.
It has the route on the flyer.
Okay.
On the bus schedule.
On the bus schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess
So-
I needed more places. I don't know. I do ride it sometimes on purpose.
Okay.
To see, and I try to put my kids on it so they know, some people don't have a car. So
Right.
this is how they have to get around.
Right.
And I guess I still even got lost. Like I've grown up here, I understand it, but still just like, okay, this stop, that stop, but
Well, I know Route 13, that's why I
Yeah.
said 13.
that
That's the mighty south side of Harrisburg's
Yes.
bus.
it is.
So,
Yes. You're
so, but I do know that they have a
For the
map
most part.
inside the bus routes.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you again for coming, for wanting to volunteer. You know, it's a big task, and I think we do need a lot of help just with more ideas with our transportation. And we need people in there who are, you know, gonna not just fight for the rider, but also for the workers. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Majors, you have another question?
Yes, I'd just be remiss if I didn't ask this. It's Councilwoman Daniels usually asks this. Are you aware of any conflicts of interest that you may have, and how would you handle them if you did have any conflicts with in your service on the board?
I don't see any conflict of interest whatsoever.
Okay. And then I guess lastly, do you have any thoughts on I guess ways to improve? I know one of the other issues to improve service, one of the issues that I know we've talked about as a city before was the hours that the bus runs, and potentially looking at additional hours or additional routes in the city. Do you have any thoughts on ways to improve ridership or improve access for our residents?
I'm not aware of the I know I would like longer hours because people work different shifts. So that would be one thing. I'm glad you asked that question, because that would be one thing that I would be willing to work on, because, you know, it's 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. Not sure how long the bus services run in those different areas, but I think that would be something that I would be willing to look into.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, President Bauer.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions related to Resolution 71?
Madam President, I'd like to make a statement, if I may, please, regarding some concerns and questions that council members have
Okay,
regarding this resolution.
okay.
Mr. Majors, the answer to your question is now the bus driver has now set up a different pattern. They've now been able to have adequate staffing. Before, we did not have adequate staffing to provide those services needed for the different time periods that the Capital Area Transit R/Rapid bus turns run. We now have control of the bus drivers when their destination route for their day. They are documented through a system on the board at the Capital Area Transit buses. So we know where the buses are, what time they'll get there, and if they're late, you know, what we need to do. Just giving you an update from the conversation I had with Mr. Farr. We've met several times. In regard to whether or not she has any conflict, she does not have any conflict, because at this point, the only correspondence that she is aware of will be at the meetings. As far as any meetings concerning anything that has to do with a Capital Area Transit bus, it comes through me and Mr. Farr. We jointly set and meet to discuss those issues. Now, when she's talked about the different issues with the drivers, is because some of the drivers felt that Mr. Farr was not giving them adequate time to take off when they've had approved leave that was prior to the time that they wanted to take off, meaning that if February, they put in leave for June. And then June comes, because he didn't have adequate staffing, they were not allowed to take off that leave. So that's some of the issues that we were looking at. And they were documented for taking off for COVID, which they should not have been documented for COVID, according to the union contract that we set up and that they agreed upon. So that's some of the things that they're doing now to address some of the issues. One of the primary issues that we have now is with the residents who are riding the bus, who are causing some violent acts. Now we have someone who's going to be riding along with the drivers is on the bus to regulate some of the actions of some of the riders who ride those different routes. So that's, you know, just an update of what we've come up with so far.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I would like to move to add Resolution 71 of 2022 to our next legislative session agenda. Next, we have Resolution 73 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 73 of 2022. A resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to accept a personal property loss payment by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Department of Transportation for the outdoor advertising device located at 1812 Paxton Street.
Thank you. Solicitor Grover, will you be providing an update on this resolution?
I will be.
Okay.
Madam President. This is just fairly a technical requirement. In the course of eminent domain for the Public Works Building, part of the land that was taken included an area where there was a billboard, something that we don't use and aren't allowed to use, actually. The land that then PennDOT is taking for the 83 widening, both for construction easement and for some use, includes this, and this billboard is in their way and has to come down. They have made a proposal to, as they're required to by law, to compensate us for what they consider personal property as opposed to real estate. And this is the proposal is attached. It was deemed by the administration to be a fair number. We are not using the device. We would have to pay to tear it down ourselves. And so we're being compensated for the value of the property. And because it is a disposition of what is now public property, this council has to approve it for that to happen. So the offer is for $94,600 for them to remove this, and we abandon it altogether. And so they can use the land for 83 construction.
Thank you for the overview. I guess I just have one question. How was the payment determined?
It was
What was the
it was a
amount?
calculation from a PennDOT formula that they
Okay.
applied, which has a breakdown on the schedule. There's costs for appraisal fees, attorney's fees, engineering fees, personal property loss fees, and then which all then eventually total out to 94,600. So they take all those into consideration. We're getting it for nothing without having to pay any of those fees. So frankly, it was found money from the city's point of view.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify how the total payment was derived. So I don't have any questions. I think it's clear. Thank you for sharing. I will begin with Councilwoman Rawls. Do you have any questions?
The city's receiving money? No, I don't have any.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Mattson, any questions?
Like to echo the comments of my colleague.
All right.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Majors, any questions?
Thank you. Just one. So should the city receive the funds, where would those funds be directed then within the city budget? This goes into the general.
I don't know the answer, whether it would be general revenue, but whether
Okay.
it would go into neighborhood services or whether it would go into the general fund, I think is a business decision to be made by the folks that I's and cross T's on finance sheets. So I don't know.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right, I was just, that was the only question I had, because I'm thinking just since it was within the public works facility, maybe it was.
Yeah, there's an argument either way.
Yeah,
Right.
right, exactly, but that's a decision of it. Okay, thank you, no further questions.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez, any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, it's just more of a logistical question, Solicitor Grover. How do we identify who does the demo? The actual-
It's PennDOT takes care
Oh,
of it.
okay.
Just like they would take down your house.
Yeah.
If they took your house, they take care
I
of
hope
it.
they don't.
So
But thank you.
I will note, Madam President, there was a related resolution on real estate that is sort of dead in the water we had introduced before. I was advised by PennDOT today, they expect an answer within about 30 days of an application the city made for federal funding for that replacement of what is the fabric building over behind there to tear it down. And it's about twice of what the prior number was.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that update. There are no further questions or comments related to Resolution 73 of 2022. I would like to move to add it to our legislative session agenda. The final resolution for discussion tonight with the Administration Committee is Resolution 74 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 74-2022. A resolution confirming the appointment of David West to serve as Director of Public Works for the City of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Mr. West, if you wouldn't mind joining us, please.
Good evening,
Good
Madam President.
evening.
Good evening, Council.
If you wouldn't mind, you're no stranger before council, but if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, my name is David West, currently serving as Director of Public Works for the City of Harrisburg. I have been an employee of the City of Harrisburg for over 27 years. I worked 10 years in the sanitation department, which is part of Public Works. 5 years as a demolition specialist, which is a part of Public Works. 4 years as a supervisor of Public Works. Almost 8 years as Deputy Director of Public Works. And about 6 months as Director of Public Works before I retired, and was asked by the current mayor, and thank you, Mayor, for asking me to return.
Okay, thank you. So I guess during this current stint, you said 6 months as the director, what goals have you achieved or what has occurred during your leadership this time?
That's my return to Public Works on July 6th. We have reestablished the Department of Sanitation, which are 2 employees short of a full complement. We also have established and continue to extend our highway division, which we are 3 employees away from full capacity of employees. We're revitalizing the vehicle maintenance center, and we've just hired a new fleet manager for the vehicle maintenance center. We've also just hired a new, yes, thank you. Yes. We've just hired a new full-time recycling coordinator. And as we continue to move forward in the expansion of the intergovernmental agreements with Stilton Borough, Paxton Borough, and Pembroke Borough, we continue to fulfill our obligation with the boroughs.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I have any other questions. I'll open it up to my colleagues at this time. I'll begin with our Public Works Committee Chair, Chair Mattson. Do you have any questions?
No questions. I think when we get into the budget hearings, we can get sort of in the weeds with the contracts with the municipalities. One thing I did see on the news, though, at a statewide level, is they were saying there's a shortage of snowplow drivers. Is that something that we're seeing as well in the city, or do you think we're at a good enough complement, considering we're heading into the winter months here?
No, we are, like I stated, we are 3 employees short of having a full complement within our highway department. And we have also established a retainer of 2 vendors that if we receive over a certain amount of snow, that we will be at the highest priority in the city of Harrisburg for the 2 vendors to get us through and what we need to do as far as a storm.
Well, I'll add on a personal note that it was good to see you return. I think what I was hearing from some of the employees is that morale was a little low prior to you coming back. And I know that it's sort of improved since. So I appreciate you coming back and fixing some of those things that have been going on, and knowing that the workforce is happy with the current leadership. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you coming back, especially after the previous administration.
Thank you.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rawls, any questions?
Thank you, President Bowers. Thank you, Directoress, for coming this evening. I just had a few. One question with mine, I know we spoke about a lot of times with illegal dumping, but what kind of is your, like, you see as like your big plan, your big goal to kind of try to, you can't nip it in the bud completely 100%. That's never, but where are you at trying to at least tame it and keep it under control and allowing people to know you're not going to come dump in Harrisburg?
And our goal is exactly that, to nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
We're going to continue until we nip it in the bud. We have established an illegal dumping blight / a department that is controlled by one of our sanitation supervisors. You know, his name is Kevin Jackson, and because we have done, we have dissected the department into 4 different areas that we can focus and establish what we need, the goal that we need to accomplish within that department.
But I like that. I like how when you compartmentalize things, because then you can see this is what we need. This is who's going to do it. So that's good. Thank you. And my last question was, when it comes to our youth, how would you, or how could you see putting a plan together to try to get them involved and understand that sanitation is a job that they can have when they come out of high school, and this is what it is. This is the wage you can get. This is what you're expected to do. How do you think you can kind of get them involved?
Well, we entered the last job session that they had at Harrisburg High, and we were there to let them know who we are and how they can enter, and how coming into the department, you come as a laborer, but you do not have to end as a laborer, because there's so many opportunities within the department that you can end up much further than you started.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Councilman Majors, any questions?
Thank you. So one of the, well, again, first I want to start off by saying, thank you for coming back to serve in this capacity. One of the things that we talked a lot about during your previous stint, and we've been trying to address, as Councilman Madsen mentioned, was illegal dumping and how to address those issues in Harrisburg. I know upon coming back, one of the first things that the city talked about was the partnership that we entered into with Dauphin County to try to address some of these issues. Can you talk a little bit about that partnership and how that's working?
Yes, we have enter agreement with Dauphin County Commissioners and have hired a sanitation enforcement officer to work with our enforcement team. And this officer will be working during the evening and at night when a lot of illegal dumping happens, and has established a relationship with my sanitation supervisor, who runs our illegal dumping department. And the relationship has been very effective because of the communication. And we have pictures, we have video, we have our cameras up, and we're looking to cite in prison and remove them from our city.
Thank you. And then I guess, can you speak to, have you had any successes that you can speak to thus far with that partnership?
Well, as he's establishing, well, you have to go through.
Yeah, I know there's a
Criteria.
long, sorry for cutting you off. I know there's a long process in terms of being able to actually, track down folks that are doing the illegal dumping, and a long investigation process. But in terms of, are there any successes that we can speak to currently that we've had through this? And that we've, when you were here before, we increased the penalties so we can, try to discourage people from illegally dumping Harrisburg. But with this partnership, I just want to know if there was any success stories we can speak to. Just, and it's in its infancy, right? So it's still new. I just wanted to know if there's anything you can speak to yet.
we do have some success stories, and we will put them together and get them back to you all in format. So you can see them currently, that we don't want to talk about them currently because we want to further the investigation, because the team of illegal dumpers that are out there they're the same individuals. So, and continuing to gather evidence, repeatedly, that's the way that we'll get them.
Okay, thank you. And then glad to hear that. Can you speak to some of the changes in morale that are occurring within the department since your return? I know Chair Madsen spoke to it a little bit, but can you just speak to it? How are the employees receiving you as you return back? And how's the morale in there in Public Works?
The morale is great. We have they have interests. We have new employees who are being trained, who are gaining the interest. They are happy to be at work instead of being upset by doing the work that they're doing because of what they were going through. I really don't want to speak on what happened when I wasn't there, but upon my return, we have come together as a team, and this department is about the team. It has nothing to do with just Stay West. It's the whole team effort.
Absolutely, thank you. And then one last question, and then I'll have a comment. So in terms of, are there any new things that you're looking to bring to Public Works? I know before we had talked about trying to, deal with some new ordinances to deal with our corner stores and other things in the past. Are there any new ideas or anything new that you're looking to bring to the department in this extent?
Yes, and you're exactly right. We are looking to increase some new ordinances in reference to, there are a lot of corner stores that we need to change some things about, and it has to be done in writing for us to be more effective in what we need to do as far as the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Also with, there's again, the other issues with the illegal dumpers that we are going to continue to need help in changing some of the ordinances, because we believe that the fines should be stiffer, and they should be more effective, because once it's out there that you catch one or two of them, then you have to start of a rolling ball going downhill.
Okay. All right. I don't think you'll get any pushback. I know we worked to increase it before, and if there's a new number or new penalties that you guys are looking for, I think we'd be more than welcome to hear that. And just lastly, again, thank you again for coming back. As we all know, said this previously before, as when I served as Public Works Chair, your department is the lifeblood of the city, right? You guys are up before everyone else, ensuring our sanitation gets picked up. You're out doing the work of working to clean our streets, help with the snow and everything else. So thank you for the work that you do and the team does over there. And I guess hopefully you'll be bringing back the appreciation day that I know was something that was a success that a lot of the folks over at Public Works appreciated. And I think, making sure that those folks get their due is something that I know that you hold in high regard. So thank you for your service, and thank you for coming back. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez, any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Just more of a statement. Director West, thank you again for coming back to serve the city. Greatly needed, definitely appreciated. I too would like to share a story, a positive story that was asked. Upon Director West's return, he had no idea on what council had assisted Public Safety Committee in passing, which was Hotspot Saturdays. And we came in right on time for the first one and didn't miss a beat. And together with my colleagues in council and Madam Mayor and our team, we were able to remove over 50 tons of trash in 6 days throughout the city. So I applaud you and your team. That's amazing. And working in collaboration with the county. So Thank you for that, and I look forward to working with you and your team for the future Hotspot Saturday initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding Resolution 74, 2022? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I would move to add Resolution 74, 2022 to our next legislative session agenda. This concludes the work of the Administration Committee. In the absence of our Budget and Finance Committee Chair, Vice President Green, I will preside over the Budget and Finance Committee business. We will begin with Resolution 72 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 72 of 2022. A resolution approving the fourth proposed 2022 budget reallocation.
Thank you. The projector still on, or are we?
I think it might have just nodded off, but it should be coming back up.
Okay.
It's slowly materializing there.
All right, there we go. Okay, good
Right,
evening.
Yes,
Alright.
yeah, thank you, President Bowers. Good evening. Good evening, City Council members. Brian McCutcheon from the Accounting Office, Accounting Manager. I'm stepping in this evening for the Budget Manager and our Finance Director, presenting the fourth proposed reallocation budget adjustment plan for 2022. You've probably received the resolution and the exhibit. I distributed the paper copy just as a backup copy this evening to you, and it is what is up on the screen right now. The first item I'd like to start with is footnote C, which pertains to Department of Parks, Recreation, and Facilities. They have a need to reallocate $225,000 from the services line for capital needs that pertain to the mansion location for its roof and porch needs. That's footnote C. Madam President, do you want me to keep going, or do you want me to stop right there for any comments or questions?
Let's keep going, and then
Okay.
we'll just revisit each
Sure.
footnote if necessary with questions. Thank you.
All right. Next up is footnote B. And this is a mixture or a combination of related items. The first two lines involve the Vehicle Management Center for Public Works. The first part of this, of the 175,000 you see there on line 100,000 is going proposed to be removed from motor fuel and lubricants to be reallocated over to repairs and maintenance. That's the specific need that came from Public Works, a $100,000 reallocation need. The remaining 75,331, if you follow down, we're proposing removing budget from that line. Also in combination with the 87,500 coming out of salaries and wages for the city's solicitor's office. 37,500 removing from Bureau of Financial Management in the salaries line. And then also to add to that, there is available unused budget from the debt service fund of 160,000. In totaling those four amounts I just mentioned, it comes to a total of $360,331. And that is the funding need, which is broken down by the remainder of the lines at footnote B. The biggest piece of that is for the Bureau of Fire, their need for overtime to fill out the remainder of the year, 300,000. And the remaining lines are all to general expenses with, for the city's insurance coverage premiums to clean up those negative lines. We always budget for anticipated increases with a new renewal period, which goes from October 1st through September 30. But the premiums came in for several lines this time at larger amounts than expected for increases in premium for many of our coverages that range from anywhere from 20% up to 37%. So this is the fill in to make right those lines and also address the Bureau of Fire's need for overtime funding. And item A on top is it's set aside, but it's the 160,000 that is available from the debt service fund. So what that does, even with these adjustments, the general fund's expenditures are increasing in total to over $260,000, and that's offset by the interfund funds coming from the debt service fund, where there's unused budget for 2022. And then just as a final piece, again, footnote A down at the very bottom, what I just went through about the debt service fund, it's a reallocation, taking it away from the need to pay debt and reallocating it as a transfer to the general fund. That's the summary on those items.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the floor to questions from my colleagues. I will begin with Councilman Rodriguez. Do you have any questions?
No, not currently. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Daniels, any questions?
Yeah, so how did we end up with 160,000 surplus in the debt service fund?
Right, that particular budget unit in the debt service fund relates to the redevelopment authority revenue bonds for the Verizon Commonwealth Tower debt. We budget for that every year. And for 2022, we know obviously what the maturities are. We know what the fixed amount of income is that comes in for rent. And there's also the city's required minimum contribution. What we don't know is there's conditional rent that can materialize from Harristown Development Corp based on their operations. So we always budget for the potential lack of that happening because we just don't know. It happened though, favorably in this year. Back in April, the generated conditional rent was well over 400,000. So that freed up that budget. That we've already utilized some of this budget earlier this year from the second reallocation because of our concern about fuel costs. So this is the remaining piece of that budget that's not going to be used for 2022.
And then this is just a comment. This isn't really a question. I almost feel like there's no management of the city right now. The lobbyist didn't use $87,500 because it doesn't have staff, but we have to hire outside attorneys, $5,000 a day. But because they're not using what's in their budget with permanent staff, now we have this $87,500 to pay overtime for fire. I mean, sorry, I'm really tired, but this really feels like there's just, this isn't your issue. It just feels like there's no management or very little management. And that's really it.
Thank you. Councilman Majors, any questions?
Thank you. Yes, with respect to, yes, the items under B, looks like we're looking to take, we're taking 175,000 out of motor fuels and lubricants, correct?
That's correct.
So my rough calculations here are correct. So we would have budgeted to spend roughly $90,000 a month on motor fuels and lubricants every year. Well, that's what we adopted in 2022. What we spent thus far was the $876,000. Puts us, I guess, $79,000 roughly, I guess, a month, based upon that. I just did it divided by 11. We're leaving ourselves with $38,000 left in motor fuels. We still have, I guess at that point, we would have still had the rest of the month of November, and then all of December left. Doesn't look like we're gonna have enough budgeted for fuel for the month of December, especially with the increase in fuel costs. Just want to make sure that's
Right.
that's all of what's coming out. That's what comes
Right.
out of the motor fuels and lubricants, correct?
Yes, that's correct. What I get your concern there. But in the one column that has the year-to-date expenditures, and then it's abbreviated, the outstanding encumbrances. Our main expense in this line is our monthly fuel purchases with the fleet card program to Wex Bank. So that budget is already encumbered and is reflected, I mean, for the remainder of the year. So really, that 38,598 is really not what's left. It's there in the event that something may arise beyond Wex Bank, what we pay on a monthly basis. Because for the monthly fuel, it's already encumbered, meaning it's already taking a budget with a purchase order. So in this line, that's the main expenditure. There are some other needs, PPC lubricants, but they tend to be in the neighborhood of roughly $500 to $1,000 per month. So I felt pretty comfortable with structuring it this way, based on what I know is still left on our purchase order to cover December's payment for our fuel purchases.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable that, so we've essentially prepaid for fuel.
But it's a commitment with the purchase order. The budget's already been taken up by the purchase order or the encumbrance.
Okay. All right. I just was making sure I just know the volatility of fuel costs.
Right.
Going into December, a winter storm or a few other things that stretch our fleet and require us to, have more runs could potentially deplete that rather quickly. That's just my concern in draining it that much. But
even at that, a good example. But I feel like what we have left on the purchase order plus this additional 38,000, it should get us there in good shape for December.
okay. No other questions were asked. No further questions right now. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Councilman Madsen, any questions?
No, most of the questions I had were already asked. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Rawls, any questions?
Thank you. And good evening. Thank you for joining us
Good
today.
evening, certainly.
Maybe it's more of a clarification than a question. A little bit of both. So the salaries and wages, I think that got me but we're taking it away from vacant spots. Is that what's?
It currently, in our department, Bureau of Financial Management, we do have 2 spots that are vacant at the present time.
I know the solicitor's office does, so that's where that's coming from, their vacant.
Right, and I did, before I I put this together, I did have a brief overview with Neil about his, the city solicitor's budget unit as far as reviewing that. And we projected based on what the needs would be for the rest of the year, that there would still be enough budget to accommodate, what the Law Bureau's needs would be.
Okay. And what if they hired somebody? Like, what if they hired somebody in this time before, I guess, the new budget gets passed or what? I don't know, hypothetically. How would they pay them if it's taken from, or how would you all pay them in the fight? Like, how would the
Right.
city pay them if we're taking money from those wages?
There are multiple openings,
Okay,
so this is part of for one opening for an attorney. So there are openings that are just there in the budget that we have not been able to spend. We had 2 attorneys leave, so only part of their encumbrance for the year is spent. And those positions haven't been filled yet, those 2. We have a 3rd person who's part-time and so working less hours and less than they would at a full-time rate. So I'd love to have them all filled, but
Yeah.
the reality is we don't.
I guess, and that's my concern. Like, if we do, how do we?
Well, the point is there's enough money still encumbered. There's still enough
Yes,
salary
yes.
money that if I found someone tomorrow,
Right.
they'd be paid through the end of the year.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, sure.
I have another, if you don't mind, elaborating a little bit on the Parks and Rec, the building and improvements expenditure.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody, this is Dave Baker's department. But I've had a couple of quick conversations and basically my knowledge is what I put in the footnote that they plan to, I guess the need is very urgent to address the roof situation and related structure of the mansion to remedy that.
I think the bids came in higher than anticipated.
Okay, and then this, I mean, I know I've been harassing you about this, but the CDBG stuff, because I know we could use a portion of this, a small portion of the CDBG money on this kind of expenditure. So like, where are we? I guess we're not anywhere.
I can't speak to that. I'm not sure we put CDBG into repairs. I don't know that we do that.
We do sometimes small, very small.
And this-
amounts.
this
So I
turns-
forget what the percentage threshold is.
This is
But
like,
I guess at this
this is a
point,
$500,000.
yeah, I guess at this point, we just don't have
I don't have something lined up for that.
any. So the only option is really our budget reallocation process.
That would have
general
come,
fund,
either
yeah.
one would come down, so.
Yeah.
The news is it's unexpended funds from the budget. That's what's funding this year, moving funds that taxpayers pay from one item to the other. It's the same tax base that pays, it's just their money's being used for this item the city needs instead of one they expected in January 1. So.
Yeah, overall, there's no overall increase to expenditure in the general fund. This is just taking what is available from the services line item in Director Baker's budget unit and moving it to his capital.
And I realize that it's just, it just feels like at a year of lack of. I mean, it would be nice if we have some information on the CDBG money too, coming down at some point. That's it in terms of for this particular set of funds.
Okay, Councilman Majors.
Sorry, one last question with respect to the fire overtime. Is that, can anyone speak to why the dramatic increases? I don't see the chief here. I know that's a question more for him, but I know, are any of these funds reimbursable? I know some of them folks may have put on deployments, or is this all just because we don't have enough manpower within the department?
It is not bandwidth, it is deployments, both military and emergency. The emergency ones we get reimbursed for, but we won't get that money till next year.
Okay, yeah, that was, okay. All right, that was part of the question, just making sure if any of it was reimbursable under any.
Yeah, when I talked to Chief about this, he said just that he wasn't very optimistic about the reimbursement that will come, but that it wouldn't get here prior to
With this
the,
budget, yeah.
within this year, correct? Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCutcheon. I would move to add Resolution 72, 2022 to our next legislative session agenda. The next resolution
you.
for discussion, no, you're welcome. The next resolution for discussion is Resolution 75 of 2022. Mr. Parker, could you please read it into the record?
Yes, Resolution 75-2022. A resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into an agreement with the Harrisburg School District for the collection of the business privilege and mercantile tax and the amusement tax for the 2023 tax year.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes, thanks for joining us.
Good evening, City Council. Mike Hughes, Tax Administrator. As stated, this is just our annual collection agreement with the school district for us to collect the business privilege mercantile and the amusement tax. We're already collecting for the city, so this is for the contract to collect for the school district. Been doing it since 2001, and the current collection rate at 4%.
Great, thank you. I think we're familiar with this, but I just want to open up the floor for questions just in case. I'll begin with Councilwoman Rawls. Any questions?
Thank you. I feel like I'm familiar with this too, but just in case it was before I came on. We help Harrisburg City collect taxes, the school district, and we get 4% of what they collect.
That's correct. We're already
Ah.
collecting this tax for the city. So we also collect concurrently for the school district on these three items.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Madsen, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you. Seems straightforward.
All right, Councilman Majors, any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay, Councilwoman Daniels.
Which part?
The tax collection. Like when the revenues come in.
Right, so primarily we're annually on our collections. However, we do have quarterly collections for our larger accounts. And that's for the business privilege and mercantile. And then the amusement tax is monthly.
And this is just for this, but have you noticed like any trends in terms of like collecting, increasing, decreasing?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we run really consistent over the years of what we collect for the school district. We've been averaging over the last 5 years between 2 and 2.5 million that we collect for them. Now we did see a little bit of a dip during the 2 COVID years, primarily in the amusement tax area. But now that rebounded strongly in the current year. So we're getting back to like a normal number that we would collect for the school district this current year.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez, any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for being here, Mr. Hughes. Good to see you. How is the communication or cooperation with the district now that they're in receivership? How is it different from the past?
It's a very good question. I've dealt with a lot of different people over the years at the school district. It's changed several times. I'm not familiar with the new people at the moment. I have contact, recently with finance director. Her name is Nicole. Nicole Fry. I've been in contact with her, and then she forwarded the contract to the CFO, Dr. Marcia Stokes, and the solicitor over there.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions related to Resolution 75, 2022? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I move to add resolution 75 of 2022 to our next legislative session agenda. This concludes the work of the Budget and Finance Committee. Our final committee business this evening comes from the Public Safety Committee.
Madam
Oh,
President, if I
oh.
may, just so the record's clear, we're voting on this. We don't have an answer yet formally from the school district. The
Oh.
receiver has to vote as well at a public
Sure.
meeting. So-
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay. Chair Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I am Ralph Rodriguez, your Chair for Public Safety of the Harrisburg City Council. We will start the business of the Public Safety Committee by reading Resolution 76 of 2022. Mr. Parker, would you mind reading Resolution 76 of 2022?
Certainly. Resolution 76-2022. A resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a personal services contract with Gary Lathrop to provide strategic, emotional, and spiritual services to the city of Harrisburg Bureau of Police.
Thank you for that. I see Deputy right here. Will you be giving the overview, Deputy? Awesome, thank you. Thank you. Awesome,
Okay,
thank you for
thank you.
this. And whenever you're ready, you can speak right into the microphone for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here and appreciate your time. You can see on here, to my right is Chaplain Gary Lathrop. He is here to answer any questions, in case there are any, about what he intends to do and how we intend to continue the program. So you can see on here, in 2015, the Harrisburg Bureau of Police wrote a general order, which is our policies and procedures regarding the establishment of a chaplain program. It had started prior to that, but that was the official time. Probably what, 3 years before that, Gary, is when they started that?
Yes, it was in 2011. Mayor Thompson actually requested that the Bureau form a chaplain program because she had seen a newspaper article about a chaplain program in another police department locally. So that's about 2011 when we got started.
So what's in here is basically is the chief chaplain is basically right now Gary. I remember being a lieutenant on a midnight shift. I first heard about this. I was like, I didn't have high expectations. Didn't understand the need for it, but then when Gary showed up and explained the program, he started recruiting area chaplains to come into the police. There was a vetting process for that. They had to fill an application. And then they're assigned to platoons there's 3 platoons for the Uniform Patrol Division. So the daylight shift and the 311 to midnight shift, each have a chaplain assigned. They come out and they attend roll calls. They have to ride with the officers. They go on calls. They're called out for scenes of a high trauma nature. It could be a homicide if there's a request for a chaplain for the family of the victim or of a witness, or even an officer saw a traumatic thing. It basically is, when I first heard, I'm like, it takes a long time for that to work. And back then, when I said, pulling my eyes, I'm like, no. But now I don't think we could do it without this chaplain program. They're here. Gary is an employee of Dauphin County, right? The chaplains that volunteer for this program aren't paid. They come in and do it on their own time. And one of my fears is, as we go through time, and the reason why this is even coming up is Gary is entering another phase of his life where he's gonna cut back on his hours and duties with Dauphin County. You can see later that right now, the city of Harrisburg, we pay Dauphin County $5,000. And he goes to a lot of different police departments throughout Dauphin County to provide these services. Co-counsel officers, he'll ride with them. He may be riding with Swatera for a few hours, comes over and talks to Harrisburg, comes over and does different jurisdictions throughout the county. He has come out on homicide scenes, suicides, and Also work with members of the Fire Bureau, Parks and Rec. Yep. So I mean, it's not just, yep. So there are, for these, I mean, it's a bargain. I put a little thing in there that if we had to pay an officer to go be counseled by somebody, it'd be about $150. Our contractor, we are prepared along with the Law Bureau, his rates can be about $44 on a part-time basis. So you can see the duties he goes through there. I mean, the goal of the contract that we have with him is to keep this chaplain program going. Because I think it's pretty critical really for the Bureau, for the city, and really for the citizens. To sustain the employee, spouse, family counseling, improve the mental, emotional resiliency capabilities of Bureau police members, and to continue our Bureau training goals, because it is Gary who sets up an officer retreat to train officers on how to deal with the specific circumstances or just something we want them to learn or experience. He does the same thing with our supervisors. You know, when we had our Officer Appreciation Day, he was heavily involved with that and got that whole thing going and participated and brought all the chaplains out to help serve food and run the things we were doing there. So there's a lot of things Gary participates in, he and the other chaplains, because they're all, he's just called the chief chaplains, the term they came up with, he didn't make it up. Also in there, so you can see what we budgeted in 2022, what it is can be for 2023, which is 40,000. But also that in this year, and we had briefed you previously on the local law enforcement grant. I put in there a proposal to fund this for 2022 and 2023 and 2024, 45,000. But we won't know about if we got that local law enforcement grant until December 14th of this year. So it's a possibility, not a promise, but it's something that goes into your decision. Barring any questions, or maybe, I don't know if Gary has anything, we'll probably answer questions.
Thank you for that, Deputy. What would be the chances of, and like you said, it's no guarantee that the funds would come, but for like the community interventions grant we were working on, what would be the opportunity of perhaps putting that position into that and utilizing some of those funds for this role?
Community intervention.
Yes,
Oh, the local, there was 2 grants we put in, a local law enforcement,
and one was for the
gun violence,
community violence
investigation and
intervention.
prosecution.
Yep, the earlier one.
I put that one in a local law enforcement.
Okay, okay. And I can refrain from any of mine, but I will like to pass it along to my colleagues on council. Councilwoman Daniels.
So could you just fill us in a little bit more on the program, like how many paid positions are included, or because the only time I've heard of chaplain is either military. So what would, you know,
So, sure. Not dissimilar to military or prison chaplains. Again, it's a specific group of people that we address. Our primary role is to provide support for the police officers, although our secondary role is to provide support to the citizens of Harrisburg. I mean, that's what the things that we get called out for, you know, like homicides, suicides, drug overdoses, and when there's distraught family members, our role is to minister to them. We minister to people of all faith, no faith. We're very broad. Anybody that requests our assistance, we're happy to help. The challenges in recruiting chaplains are, you know, one, all of the chaplains are volunteers. So we're asking for a large commitment. Each of our chaplains, we request that they do 1 ride along per week and that they are available on call 24/7 to be called when there's a homicide, suicide, et cetera, when family members would like a chaplain to come. So it's a big ask for clergy people. We also have tried to recruit clergy people that have law enforcement background because they would be better accepted by the police officers because they would understand, okay, this is what it's like to be a police officer. And also they do have to pass a background check and all, all those sorts of things. So, so again, we're open to all. We serve all. I've been called out to speak with atheists and people of every faith, and I'm happy to provide services to everybody. So there's 5 chaplains at this point, and it's a variety. So, and again, where the challenge is, trying to find people that are wired the right way. So, for example, many clergy people cannot deal with seeing dramatic, graphic crime scenes. So, we've talked to various people that, are very well qualified clergy people, but they're like, I don't want to see blood. I don't want to go out to, situations where people are screaming and it's very upset and chaotic sometimes, when these awful situations happen. So.
Some of how many hours of chaplain stay work are people per week or per month?
So there's 4 chaplains that commit to doing a ride along every week. So depending on their schedule, some may come for 3 or 4 hours each week. Some will do a whole shift of 8 hours. Some will do more than that. We also are available at all times to be called out. So it really depends on the needs and the circumstances that occur in the city. So most of the volunteer, I would say, volunteer, 8 to 12 hours a week, probably.
So since you're riding along and if there's but it's not like a victim requests a chaplain and then the chaplain goes out or a police officer requests it. It's just that the volunteers are there already.
Well, kinda, it depends. Let's say like the 311 chaplain, normally he comes in on Fridays. And he'll ride from 3 o'clock till pretty late there. He usually rides a whole shift on Friday night.
Till
So
11.
he
Yeah.
puts, in addition to his work hours, he works another 8-hour shift at the Harrisburg as a volunteer. And basically what happens is we come in, he would come in, he would talk to the supervision, and they would say, if we know someone who is maybe having an issue, we'd be like, hey, I want you to ride with Dennis Sorensen. And then he would ride with me. Or, hey, I haven't talked to X for quite some time. I'd like to ride with them and maybe ride with this person over here. And they go on the calls, they talk in the car. If they have to switch vehicles, they can. But if something, like I think the last time, it was a suicide over was it last weekend?
Yeah, last Saturday at the parking garage. And
so it's pretty traumatic for everybody. So a chaplain was called in for that on a Saturday evening, just to talk to the officers. I don't believe there's any family. I wasn't there for that one. There actually were family. The mother and the sister arrived at the police station later, and so the chaplain that was called out for that spoke with the officers and then spent time trying to help the family members, process what had happened and sort of give them information and help give them resources to follow up and that sort of thing. And then I've done counseling appointments with each of the officers that were present because it was quite a dramatic, situation where somebody jumped from the 12th story in front of several officers. So the visual, they saw this happen and the person unfortunately, landed very close by to 2 of the officers. So that's quite upsetting to experience that. So that's that's our most recent time that we got called out to assist. So. Right. So again, many clergy persons do not want to sign up for that kind of experience, to just be honest. So.
Right, thank you. Councilman Majors.
Thank you. So I guess Deputy Sorensen, so I guess seeing the eightfold increase in terms of what we're looking to provide. Are any of the roles and responsibilities different with this under this new with this new structure versus what we have been providing previously?
No, it's the same.
Yeah, I would, so my role for almost 10 years now for the county has been to provide these services for all the departments in the county. Because Harrisburg is the largest jurisdiction, has the largest department, more of my services have gone towards Harrisburg over the last 10 years than the other departments. So I would say probably my hours would go up a little bit from what they have been for Harrisburg if we move in this direction. But it would be providing the same services that I have been. I've been working for the county on average 55 to 60 hours a week, and I'm on call 24/7. So I turned 65 this summer, so I'm looking to try to. My wife's looking for me to try to drop back a little bit from that. So that's why I'm stepping back from the county, and that's why we're entertaining this for Harrisburg so that they can continue to have the services and utilize the program.
Okay, thank you. Also see your resume that there's also work with the Office of Attorney General
Yes.
and the Pennsylvania State Police.
Yes.
Well, those two, you're just looking to step away from the county, you'll still be doing those other roles in a consulting capacity.
Well, I've already been stepping away from the state police, so I've been trying to narrow down my time commitment. So I do continue to do some things for the Attorney General's office at this point, and we'll see how that goes as we go forward. But I work with the Child Predator Unit, the Safe to Say Unit, and the Computer Forensic people. So basically, I do annual check-ins for their agents that deal with those, so the child predator agents, generally see child pornography a lot of the day. And I mean, that takes a toll. They're going after child predators. And so I do a check-in with them every year to make sure they're coping okay with what they have to deal with as part of their job.
And then I guess also from your resume, so you have, some additional background in forensic psychology.
Yes.
And psychology as well. So are you also encouraging them to maybe seek any additional forms of counseling? Should that be necessary as a part of?
Yes, so a large part of what I do now is provide counseling to police officers and their family members. So approximately 150 appointments a month I have with police officers for counseling. So yes. So
And just to clarify, if I may, Gary, we have a different professional service contract with Dr. Laguna, who does our fitness for duty. There's only, really in this area, there's only two doctors who can do that. One is Gary and one is Dr. Laguna. So they kind of split those duties. I think Dr. Laguna doesn't do counseling, but he does fitness for duty. Gary is vice versa. So.
Right, and it's really the trust factor that's there for police officers. They have to know that what they talk to me about is confidential and is not going to go back to their departments. Whereas Dr. Laguna is called in purposely to evaluate for the department. So that's sort of the difference in the hats that we wear. I have a master's in forensic psychology. I was a police psychologist for NYPD a long time in the past, and so that's where I began my counseling with police officers back in 1984.
Right. Okay. And just on that note, but any counselor that they would see would still have a requirement to protect any other patient information. So
Right.
that's what I'm just asking about. So,
but a fitness for duty is different than
right,
that, though. So,
understand that. So, but I guess part of the concern, just in general, not just speaking to this contract, is if there are only two people that can provide services to police officers in the entire of central Pennsylvania, that's a little concerning to me. So I'm just saying that, are you referring folks out to any other
Yes,
services? Should
and-
they be necessary? That's just very,
Yes.
I mean, you cover a lot of departments, you do a lot of great work. I'm not, but that's,
There's many other counselors and psychologists in the area that do treat police officers, because police officers are people too. So they have marriage issues, they have, depression, they have those sort of things. It's just when it gets to specific law enforcement related things, there's not a lot of people, that have similar training.
okay.
So,
And then I guess lastly for me, in terms of, I know we have a few folks from different, a few volunteers that are chaplains. Has there been any discussion of any small stipend or anything for that entire group? Since, you're the chief chaplain, how do you think you can improve either the recruitment of those individuals, or what can we do to ensure that, there are people that are able to provide this service? I think it's something that our police and our community need, but, and is there a diversity amongst those that are providing them, those services, not just faith traditions, but an ethnic diversity?
and we do have ethnic diversity among our group of chaplains. So we're again, we have a number of filters that we look at. And so again, there has to be an interest. There has to, again, we're a high priority is finding someone with a law enforcement background. So, 4 of our 6 chaplains were previously police officers and had law enforcement careers. So that gives them an instant in with the officers that they're riding with and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, we're very open. We were actively recruiting. Again, the challenges of people committing this much time for no compensation and dealing with dramatic graphic situations. There's a limited pool of people that want to do that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair Rodriguez.
Absolutely. Council President Powers.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, I guess, the compensation and then the term for the agreement. So you noted that you're looking to minimize your time or use it in a different capacity. So this states that, the parties anticipate that you will perform services on average of 20 hours per week?
18 hours a week.
18.
Yeah.
Okay. No, this says 20, but okay.
We're in the
Um,
process
and
of
then-
making that adjustment.
Okay,
Yeah, the law bureau just reversed engineered the annual cap.
okay.
That's how we got to the hourly rate.
All right.
So
Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, and then the term for this agreement shall be for all of next year, basically, beginning January 1st, 2023, through December 31st. And it will automatically renew for future 1-year terms for a maximum of 3 additional years. And that's subject to the annual budget appropriation by City Council. Is that, okay, you've agreed to that?
Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify those 2 things. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And just for the record, Solicitor Grover, that would be 44 instead of the 40 and 18 hours instead of the initial 20.
right, that was our discussion. We sent this down as a form of a contract because we were still speaking with Gary about what would work best and with the police bureau, and that worked for that was the numbers they were thinking about where they got to the $40,000.
Same total, just an adjustment.
Same annual cap payment. Yep.
Thank you. Councilman Mattson?
No questions for me. Largely they got asked, but I guess, is there a chaplain for the chaplains? When you guys, I
Good
mean, it
question.
seems like
It's a very good question. Yeah, no, I'm in a accountability group with other pastors, and so and many of these folks are very supportive and encouraging to me personally, and so yeah, I work with a great bunch of people, and I love what I'm doing.
yeah, some heavy stuff to deal with on a
Yeah,
regular basis.
I also have my wife's an endocrinologist, and she is very compassionate person, and so she hears about a lot of generic things from me that
Sure.
that weigh on me, and she helps to bear that burden. So
Very good. Well,
thanks for asking.
I have to admit, if first hearing of this, I'd probably be like Sorensen, a little skeptical, but the fact that it's been a proven program to do so much good for our officers and the wider community. Terrible.
I'm a believer. And in 2015, I wasn't.
Yeah, I would have not, on religion or anything, but it just,
Right.
I don't know if that'd be something our officers would utilize very much. I'm glad people are, and it's helping.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. I mean, we do funerals for officers, family members. We've married a number of the officers that have gotten married. We, you know, I mean, when they are in the hospital, we go visit them. When they're sick at home, we go visit them. So I mean, we're sort of embedded in the department, I think, at this point in the officers' lives.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Ross.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight, both of you. I love this program. I had no idea we had it. I want to kind of like scream from the rooftop so the community knows, because I think it's a big piece of showing how we as a city and as a police department, we do have things in place to help the officers. They see a lot of trauma and they need to talk about it, and having that awareness of saying that's okay. So thank you.
Pleasure.
And most of my questions were answered. I just had one. I'm a teacher. That's my day job. And so I see the kids come in with a lot of trauma from these experiences. The suicides, or a family member has been murdered, or domestic violence. And so I can kind of see sometimes when they don't get help, the path. I try to help as much as I can, but I'm not a chaplain. I'm not a psychologist, although I play all those roles in my classroom. I'm not certified in them. So how, I know you mostly work the police department and the police officers, but how do we kind of show a road to those trauma victims, those family members, or help their parents and help the kids find a way to get the help they need? Because I've noticed that they don't get it. So I just wanted your touch on that, or how, if it's not happening, how we can improve it.
Yeah, and again, you know, when these kind of situations occur, if there are family members present, I mean, chaplain services are offered to everybody. Again, it's up to them to decide whether they want to, you know, be involved or not. Many of the situations where I get called in, you know, where someone has died, I generally will spend 2 or 3 or 4 hours, you know, with the family members. The situations, you know, where it's natural causes, even, you know, where it's a spouse and their, you know, and their remaining spouse is very distraught. You know, I've stayed at the home with them till the funeral home came to pick up, you know, their dearly beloved. And I followed up the next week, and I've checked in with family members. We also have, you know, in the county, there's, you know, victim witness resources, you know, that do provide counseling for family members when there's a crime that occurs, such as a homicide or those sort of situations. So again, you know, our scope is largely the police officers, but this is a benefit to the police officers too, because they don't have all of the training that we do to help people in the grief process. And they have other responsibilities. At a homicide, they're having to, you know, take pictures and do measurements and get witness statements and do all these other things, you know, that we don't do. And so we can spend our time, you know, with the family and try to help them through the process.
Okay, thank you. And you touch on it with the follow-up, because that was my big thing too. Like, you may see the victim's family that night, but what does the follow-up look like? Because they do get lost in the system.
Right. And again, I mean, they all have my contact information. So, I mean, they could see me for the next 6 months if they needed to. I mean, so I do, you know, I do call people, particularly, you know, several days after, and then often meet with them a week later just to see, okay, we perhaps gotten through a service, and now, you know, things have settled down, and now they're left with a hole in their lives, and to try to help them process, you know, where we go from here. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're fortunate also that Dauphin County has a very strong victim witness program.
Okay.
So they do reach out after these things. But there's something you got to do a little bit of work on your own too. And there is
Sure.
paperwork, it's a bureaucracy, just like we are. But there is more help available out there for those who think and apply for it.
Right. Like you said, you know, do the paperwork. And I guess that's too where we have to make sure they know about the resources,
Right.
not putting that on anybody. You know, that goes for me too, you know. So I'll be calling you just to make sure I have the name of any resources to give, because it just is, like I said, you can see the path if the trauma isn't healed.
There's so much available. It actually went from a one-page form to this year in 2022, a 6-page form
Okay.
for available resources and who to contact. And it's county specific. The state did, I think, a nice job of setting it up. A little burdensome on your bureaucracy side of ordering the forms and everything, because we have to do everything ourselves now. As you'll see tomorrow. But at the end, it's a 6-page form. There's a lot of information in there. You just got to take time to read it, see what's out there and apply.
And it's on like the Dauphin County website.
Yep, it's, and when we go, like, let's say there's a domestic violence incident, we're required by law to give them a
packet.
victim
Ah.
services notification form, which is
Okay.
now a packet.
Okay.
It has all that data they would need on there if they want to get a protection from abuse, if they need other services, it's all listed on there. It's pretty inclusive. I think in the county, the state did a nice job of setting up what this county is specific. So
Okay.
there's one specifically for Dauphin County. And our accreditation manager, Steve Green, he contacted every number on that form and they're
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
They were all spot on. So I
Okay.
applaud them for that.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
All
that.
For me.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ross. And for anyone watching that needed more information, they can contact the CMU in case they needed early intervention or crisis intervention if they can't get a hold of Chief Chaplain here. But I really appreciate your time and the work you do. It's incredible as a certified life coach and preventionist. I appreciate being in the field and really reaching the people. So thank you, Deputy and Commissioner, for being here as well. Carter, thank you as well for being here. Are there any further questions from council at this time? All right, and I ask if this legislation can be placed on the next legislative session agenda, and I look forward to council support on it, and that completes the work of the Public Safety Committee for the City of Harrisburg. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now open the floor for public comment. And just a few housekeeping reminders. We have 2 minutes to share your comment. Please state your name and your address. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please state the vicinity in which you live. Mr. Parker will serve as our timekeeper. Is there anyone to my right that would like to offer public comment? Seeing and hearing no one, anyone in the middle? Okay, seeing and hearing no one, anyone to my left?
Thank you, Madam President. Hi, my name is Cole Goodman. I live at 200 Mary Street. And I just wanted to come and say thank you to council for your support for the boys soccer team. I come on behalf of the boys soccer team. We had a fabulous season this year. All the other teams in the mid-state actually counted us out and ranked us in last before the season. Harrisburg hadn't won a soccer game prior to last year for 25 years. We actually won the Mid-Penn Capital Division Championship this year. But I want to say thank you guys for your support. I know Councilman Madsen, you're an avid soccer fan. Madam President, you provided cupcakes for the boys last year after our season, which was really appreciated. And we appreciate the proclamation that council is going to give for our young men and our young ladies on the team. So on behalf of the team, I just wanted to come up and say thank you. It really, really means a lot because these young men and ladies work so hard to represent Harrisburg, to represent the city with dignity, wherever we go play, with professionalism. And I just, on behalf of the team, wanted to come say thank you.
Thank you.
Cole, would you mind talking to Mr. Parker about a date for the proclamation?
Thank you. Is there anyone else to my left that would like to offer public comment? Seeing and hearing no one, the time is 7:19 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.
Good night.
Yeah, pizza. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, I keep forgetting. You should just like, just a gesture or something. Don't do that. Forget about it. Oh.
Yeah, I'll just look forward to get customer Rodriguez. So, we'll figure out something.
Yeah.
We'll figure out something. All right. Have a good night.